The fluorescent lights of the megamart cast a sickly glow over the late-night shoppers, painting everything in shades of institutional beige and tired gray. For Sarah, this was the world she lived in, a landscape of perpetual exhaustion. Her days were a frantic, unforgiving blur of minimum-wage jobs, childcare, and the quiet, constant worry that hummed just beneath the surface of her skin. She had a 6-month-old daughter, Lily, whose cherubic face and infectious giggle were the sun that warmed her world, and a mountain of bills that casted into shadow. Tonight, the shadow felt particularly long. She stood in the longest checkout line, her basket filled with the desperate essentials of a life on the edge. A bulk pack of diapers, a can of formula, and a few jars of baby food. The rest of her grocery list, a cruel fiction of fresh vegetables and protein, had been discarded at the last aisle. She couldn't afford it. Her entire existence was a delicate balancing act, a high-wire performance with no safety net. Her rent was late, her car had a looming repair bill, and her bank account was a testament to the brutal arithmetic of poverty. In the line behind her stood Adrian Thorne, a man who moved through the world with the effortless confidence of someone who had never had to worry about the cost of diapers. Adrian was the CEO of Thorne Innovations, a tech company that had revolutionized sustainable energy. He was a man of clean lines and sharp suits, whose days were a symphony of board meetings, stock market fluctuations, and the quiet, powerful thrill of global influence. He was a visionary, a man who saw the world not as it was, but as it could be. But in this moment, he was just a man in a grocery store, buying a late-night bottle of water and a packet of breath mints. Keo was a spectator in a world that was not his own. The line moved with the sluggish pace of a glacier. Adrian, a man who was used to efficiency, was growing quietly impatient. He glanced up from his data slate and saw the woman in front of him, her body language a taut, defensive coil. He noticed the worn canvas of her jacket, the way her hand, a delicate, work-roughened thing, trembled slightly as she placed the items on the conveyor belt. He saw the bulk pack of diapers and a small, almost forgotten memory of his own childhood, of his mother's quiet desperation, flickered in the back of his mind. The cashier, a young girl with a bored expression, scanned the items. Total came up in a bright, unforgiving red. $57.42. Sarah's heart, which had been a frantic, trapped thing in her chest, now stilled. She took a breath, a long, shaky inhale, and pulled her card from her wallet. It was a debit card, a plastic monument to the money she didn't have. She swiped it. The machine word. And the display blinked the two words that had become the soundtrack of her life. Transaction declined. The silence that followed was a physical presence, a heavy, suffocating thing. Sarah felt the heat of 100 eyes on her. The people in line, once anonymous faces, were now a judging, silent jury. The cashier, her bored expression now tinged with a cruel, superior pity, sighed. "Ma'am, you'll have to try another card," she said, her voice a low, condescending murmur. Sarah's face, which had been pale with exhaustion, now flushed with a burning, public humiliation. She felt her world, her delicate, fragile world, crumbling around her. She looked at the diapers, at the formula, at the absolute desperate necessity of these items, and felt the hot, stinging burn of tears in her eyes. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. She wanted to disappear into the tired, gray backdrop of the megamart and never be seen again. I'm so sorry, she stammered, her voice a ragged whisper. I can try again. She swiped the card a second time, a futile, pathetic act of defiance against a reality that was a mathematical certainty. The machine whirred again, and the same two words appeared in a bright, cruel red. Transaction declined. The cashier sighed, a long, dramatic sound of weary impatience. Ma'am, do you have any other form of payment? We can't hold the line. The humiliation was a fire in her veins, a poison that was spreading through her body. She was a failure. She couldn't even buy diapers for her daughter. She felt her strength, her quiet, patient resilience, finally break. A single, silent tear rolled down her cheek, a hot track of shame on her cold skin. It was in this moment of utter defeat that a voice, a strong, authoritative voice, cut through the quiet, suffocating silence. This ends today. Sarah, her head bowed in shame, looked up. Adrian Thorne stood there, his face a mask of controlled, quiet fury. His eyes, which had been a distant, indifferent blue, were now two chips of cold, hard obsidian, fixed on the cashier. Sins today, he repeated, his voice a low, commanding rumble. He then turned to Sarah. Put your card away. I've got this. He then walked past her, a man of purpose and power, and placed his own card in the machine. The cashier, a girl who was used to dealing with public meltdowns, was now dealing with a quiet, powerful force she couldn't comprehend. Play. The machine word, the display blinked. And the words that appeared were not of a declined transaction, but of a completed one. Transaction approved. Adrian didn't even look at the receipt. He just walked to the side, his body language a silent command that the cashier was too stunned to ignore. The next person in line, a large, angry man, tried to protest, but Adrian simply held up a hand. Quiet, he said, his voice a low, dangerous whisper. This woman needs a moment. The angry man, cowed by the sheer force of Adrian's presence, fell silent. The entire line, once a sea of judging faces, was now a silent, humbled audience. Adrian then turned back to Sarah, his face a mask of quiet, gentle determination. Take your things, he said, his voice softer now. Go home. Take care of your baby. Your problem is solved. Sarah, who had been a ghost, a quiet, defeated ghost in a world of loud, confident people, was now a person. A person who had just been saved by a man she didn't know. A man who, with a single, powerful act, had shifted her world on its axis. She looked at the bags, at the diapers, at the formula, and felt a profound, overwhelming gratitude. But beneath the gratitude, a small, stubborn ember of pride was glowing. She couldn't just take this. She couldn't just let this go. Sir, I can't thank you enough, she stammered, her voice still a whisper. But I can't accept this. I'll pay you back. I'll get your information. Adrian smiled, a small, tired smile that held no warmth. Good. You don't have to. You can just pay it forward one day. Now go. You have a baby who needs you. And then, he walked away. He walked out of the megamart, a man who had changed a life and was now just going on with his own. He was gone. The quiet, surreal drama of the checkout line was over. Sarah stood there, the bags in her hands feeling impossibly heavy, the gratitude and the shame and the quiet, burning ember of pride all warring for dominance in her heart. The next day, Adrian Thorne's assistant, a woman of impeccable efficiency named Evelyn, stood in Adrian's office, a data slate in her hand. You have a meeting with the board at 10, a press conference at noon, and a woman named Sarah Vance has been calling the office all morning. She claims you paid for her groceries last night. She wants to pay you back. Adrian, who was looking at a holographic projection of a new energy grid, sighed. Tell her to keep the money, Evelyn. It's a good deed. It doesn't need a transaction record, sir. She's insistent, Evelyn said, her voice a quiet, determined force. She says it's a matter of pride. She also said she's an engineer. Adrian froze. His eyes, which had been fixed on the holographic projection, now looked at Evelyn. An engineer. The word, a simple, powerful word, was like a key turning in a lock. An engineer, he asked, his voice low. A real one, not a civilian hobbyist. She said she was a junior engineer at a firm called Aradine. Until they went under, she had to take a few odd jobs to make ends meet. Adrian's face, which had been a mask of professional disinterest, now became a mask of profound interest. Aradine, he knew the name. It was an old, respected firm that had been a victim of a corporate takeover. He knew they had some of the best minds in the field. He also knew that his company was on the verge of a major project. A project that required a brilliant, out-of-a-box thinker. Get her on the line, Evelyn, he commanded, his voice a low, powerful rumble. And clear my schedule for 10 minutes. I want to talk to her. Sarah, who had been a ghost, a quiet, defeated ghost, in a world of loud, confident people, was now a person. She was a person who was about to have a conversation with a man who had changed her world, a man who now with a single powerful act was about to offer her a chance to change it for herself. The conversation was brief, but it was electric. Adrian, a man who could command a room of 1,000 people, was now just a man listening to a woman who had a quiet, fierce intelligence. She didn't talk about her problems. She didn't talk about her gratitude. She talked about her work. She talked about the mechanics of power systems, the intricacies of kinetic energy grids, the subtle, elegant solutions to problems that had stumped the best minds in the field. She was a genius, a hidden genius, who had been buried under the crushing weight of poverty. Adrian, a man who had been a spectator in her world, was now a participant. He saw her not as a problem to be solved, but as a solution to be embraced. He saw a woman who could change his company. He saw a woman who could change the world. Sarah, he said, his voice a quiet, powerful command. I'm not giving you a handout. I'm giving you a job. A very important job. We have a project that is stalled. I think you might be the one to get it moving. Sarah's world, which had been a gray, tired landscape, was now a canvas of bright, vivid colors. The quiet, constant hum of worry was gone. In its place was a new sound, the sound of possibility. The next few months were a whirlwind of change. Sarah, with her quiet intelligence and fierce determination, was a star at Thorne Innovations. She didn't just solve the problem, she revolutionized the solution. Her ideas, once a private fire that burned in the solitude of her bedroom, were now a public monument to her genius. She was no longer just a mother. She was an engineer. She was a leader. She was a woman who had found her purpose. Adrian, a man who had been a visionary, was now a mentor. He saw Sarah not just as an employee, but as a friend. He saw the fire in her eyes, the quiet strength in her hands, the brilliant out-of-a-box thinking that was her signature. He learned that the world was not just a symphony of stock market fluctuations and global influence. It was a symphony of human stories, of quiet triumphs and loud defeats. He learned that the greatest victories were not won in a boardroom, but in a grocery store. The final scene took place in a small, elegant coffee shop. Sarah, who was no longer in a faded canvas jacket, was wearing a tailored suit. She was a woman of confidence, her face etched with lines that spoke not of exhaustion, but of purpose. She sat across from Adrian, her eyes a mirror of his own quiet determination. "Adrian," she said, her voice a low, gentle rumble. "I have a solution to the new project. It's a bit radical, but I think it will work." Adrian smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "I don't doubt it, Sarah. You always do." He then looked at her, and the words that had changed her life came back to him. "This ends today." But the words now had a new meaning. It was not just the end of her poverty. It was the end of her hiding. It was the end of her silence. It was the beginning of her story, canned. It was the end of a world that was tired and gray, and the beginning of a world that was bright and full of possibility. Sarah, a woman who had once been a ghost, was now a force of nature. She was a testament to the idea that a single act of kindness, a single act of defiance against a cruel and unforgiving world, can change everything, and that sometimes the most powerful people in the world are not the ones who command armies or run corporations, but the ones who, with a single powerful act, can say, "This ends today," and mean it.